The galaxy's oldest festival was not about peace, nor conquest, nor even the glory of empire. It was about survival. Once every 1,000 years, the Accord summoned its children to the Gauntlet of the Great Remaking, a trial of mind. Will and invention held in the ruins of the first worlds to fall to entropy. They'd earned a reputation for wildness, creativity, and a refusal to accept the limits that bound older, slower-thinking races. Some called them dangerous. Some called them fools. Most just waited to see how long they'd last. The reason was lost to history. Some say it was a way to bind the strongest, some a warning. Others a ritual to appease the lurking forces of the void. Whatever the truth, the Gauntlet had endured. No one had ever won it twice. The VRX team formed a living chain, slithering together. Okoye danced through shadows, leaving firecrackers, small bursts of noise and light at every intersection. Dr. Rahimi, whispering old prayers, told the maze's story of darkness and the stars that defied it. The maze pulsed with confusion, its corridors stuttering, and somehow opened a path that led straight to the exit. The trellis sent scouts, scattering their consciousness to map the routes. The humans? Elias studied the entrance, shrugged, and grinned. Dr. Rahimi recited a passage from an old human poem. "We are such stuff as dreams are made on." Together, the team held on, surviving the river not by strength, but by refusing to let go of one another. If it's fear the maze wants, let's give it honesty. The VRX tried brute force and lost their last champion. Miru dissolved into light, singing as they vanished. The Loraxians adapted, flowing with the changes, but were stymied by a challenge that required them to create rather than analyze. Most, it was whispered, did not survive at all. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Gauntlet ended not with a single champion, but with 100 survivors, cheering, weeping, reborn. The Accord celebrated, uncertain and ecstatic. New friendships were forged, old grudges were left behind. Humanity was no longer the upstart. They were the ones who reminded the galaxy how to begin again. The Great Remaking was no longer a trap, but a passage. Elias listened to the room's heartbeat. Okoye painted equations in the air. Maya built a kite from scraps of old uniforms, and Dr. Rahimi laughed at the impossibility of it all. If nothing's true, everything's possible. They tied the kite to the grave anchor and let it fly. The Accord's judges appeared as figures of light and memory, their voices echoing in every language. The Gauntlet is not about victory, it is about change. What will you do with what you have learned? The door opened, whispering, "You remember how to play?" This time there was a new species among the contenders. He reached for Maya, Okoye, and Dr. Rahimi, and together they began to build not a weapon, not a fortress, but a door. A way out. A way for every team, every species, every champion, dead or alive, lost or forgotten to. Step into the light. Humanity, the upstart, the unpredictable, had arrived on the galactic stage only 4 centuries, a barely enough time for the oldest civilizations to take them seriously. Here, the Miru excelled at first, weaving answers with light, but were undone by a paradox that ate their names. The judges offered him a chance to take power for himself, knowledge, strength, the right to rewrite his own fate. But he saw, in the judges' eyes, the weight of endless cycles, victories turned to ashes, survivors grown cold. The Accord's judges, ancient and half-machine, watched in silence. The surviving teams tended wounds and studied their rivals. At night, Elias and Maya gazed at the stars through the transparent ceiling, wondering how many stories ended out there, and how many were still waiting to begin. Elias and Maya sat on the floor, swapping riddles until their heads ached. Finally, Elias scribbled the word love on the wall in answer with no opposite, no equation, only a beginning. The engine shuddered, then glowed gold, opening the next door. Elias Hunter never wanted to be a champion. A farm boy from the wind-swept ruins of old Seattle, he'd grown up listening to tales of the Accord from his mother, a historian who taught him that the future was never written and the past was never safe. The VRX lost 3 more. The trellis nearly unraveled, too many minds remembering too much pain. For Elias, the river showed him the day his mother died, her voice fading, her hands slipping away, his promise to always try, no matter the odds. His only real talents were stubbornness, a knack for fixing broken machines, and a deep, burning need to prove that hope was stronger than fear. It was a series of impossible challenges set by the Accord's oldest mind's enigmas to test the boundaries of invention, endurance, compassion, and chaos. The rules were simple: survive, adapt, and never use the same solution twice. He stood at the center of the Gauntlet's opening hall, flanked by his team. Maya, a musician-turned-engineer with quick hands and a quicker laugh. Dr. Shahid Rahimi, a physicist who believed the universe was just a story with a better ending waiting to be told. And Okoi, an exosuit pilot, who could have been a poet if he hadn't liked explosions so much. Around them, the other teams gathered serpentine VRX from the water worlds. Crystalline Loraxian thinkers, the hive-minded Trellis, and the enigmatic Miru, who wore cloaks of shifting light. The Gauntlet was not a contest of brawn or numbers. The opening test was the maze of lost suns, a labyrinth of shifting matter, folding light and corridors that rewrote themselves based on the fears of those who entered. Maya played her battered guitar, singing a song of childhood storms. The Loraxians watched with glittering, unreadable eyes. The VRX hissed in annoyance, already losing one of their own to a corridor that had folded into infinity. The next challenge was the Paradox Engine, a room where every action had 2 consequences, and every question created 3 more. Between tests, there were moments of rest, if you could call them that. Then came the third trial, the River of Memory. Each champion faced a simulation of their worst moment: guilt, failure, regret. He nearly broke. Maya reached for him, singing the melody from the maze. Only 4 teams made it to the penultimate Ruma chamber, where the very laws of physics were negotiable. Gravity reversed, time twisted, the humans. At last, the final trial. The Hall of the Remaking. It was an empty space, at first silent, endless. Elias hesitated. Instead, Elias did the most human thing possible.
Ow.
The judges trembled. The Accord's oldest laws, written in starlight and sorrow, began to crack. The news spread like wildfire. For the first time in living memory, the Gauntlet was not a test of who was strongest, but of who could change the story. Elias, standing in the dawn of a new era, realized he had kept his promise to hope, to risk, to never give up. And somewhere, far beyond the Accord, other civilizations watched and wondered. If humans can break 1,000 years of fear, what else is possible?